Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Best Phone Plans Podcast. Today, Dennis and I are joined by special guest Ahmed Khattak. Ahmed is the founder and CEO of US Mobile, a prepaid cell phone carrier that offers affordable plans on the Verizon and T-Mobile networks. You guys know about them. I've talked about them so many times in the past on my YouTube channel. And today we're talking with Ahmed how he got into the wireless space, what his journey has been like building a tech-focused MVNO, how US Mobile is using tech to differentiate themselves in the MVNO landscape, some of the challenges the company has faced, and some of US Mobile's proudest moments in 2020 and early 2021. So Ahmed, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I think what I really want to do is start off with how you got into the MVNO space. Like, where did the genesis for the idea of US Mobile come from? What inspired it? I know you started another company, GSM Nation. You were super into phones, unlocked GSM phones, and now you sort of transitioned into this wireless space. How did that transition take effect, and where did this idea come from?
Thanks for asking that question. And so, my kind of journey in the telecom space started, and it feels a bit of a deja vu. And like it's like one of the advices I like kind of give like younger people as well is that I graduated in 2009, and for different factors, but the same result, the economy was like in a dumpster at that time, right? Like there were no jobs, like businesses were going out. And so, here I found myself like having, gone to a very prestigious school and like not having and like most of the people in my school used to go to banks. So like no bank was hiring, no consulting firm was hiring. And I'm thinking like, what do I do? I did have an opportunity to work at Microsoft at that time. I wasn't really super passionate about it. So I basically just called my dad and I said, I have this idea around like unlocked phones, and I think I'd like to kind of see where it goes, before I join Microsoft. And really, I think my journey into the space started from like my first day in this country, where I basically landed, and here you are, like, your name is Ahmed, and this is like, 2-3 years after 9/11, and emotions are still running very high.
Yeah.
And my parents were very worried. Like they used to, at that time, the U.S. immigration used to have this, I would say like a very discriminatory like process of like getting people in from certain countries. Pakistan was one of them, where basically they had something called NCers, where you'd enter the country and you're all like, it's like it was a process. You had to do secondary. They'd put your passport in like a yellow box, and then you'd be like freaking the hell out. So my parents were very worried. So I got off the airport, and I really couldn't find a phone to call my parents. Like I couldn't get a prepaid SIM card, and like this is like 2004, right? And like Pakistan by this time like had like you could literally buy a SIM card for like $1 and start making phone calls. So like I had to make a phone call from a phone booth, and I'm like, wait, what did I get myself into? Like, I mean, this is supposed to be the most like advanced country in the world. So I think that's when the journey started. And then when I graduated, I was like, I'm going to have a kind of a go at the space. I definitely couldn't launch a wireless carrier at that time. But also I just this is when everyone in Europe was making it illegal to sell locked phones, and here you had America that, in fact, I mean, if you guys, Stetson, I think you were really young at that time, but when the iPhone first launched, and like in 2 years when it was actually going, and they were going to like expand to Germany and Italy and France, their launch got delayed by a couple of months because they couldn't sell locked phones. Like legally.
Oh my gosh.
So the French iPhones used to be worth so much money back in the day, like for like gray market sellers, because they were one of the few ones that were unlocked out there. So we basically started a company that educated people around what unlocked phones were, and then if they wanted, we'd sell them an unlocked phone that we'd buy from the manufacturers directly. Like two challenges we ran into, like immediately, one of them was like most Americans thought like unlocked phones were like illegal, which they weren't.
That's actually preferred. That's what you want when you're buying a phone, is you want it unlocked. That's how it should be.
But listen, we were the first ones to do this. Like today, like you go to Best Buy, it's a huge category. Like it's a big category for Amazon. This category didn't even exist back in there, so it was that early in the times I'm out there. So that was the first part of it. But a very big part of our business depended on wireless, like prepaid wireless carriers, so like Simple Mobile and Red Pocket and vice versa. And so, we tell you that you can buy this, you can stay in the same network, you select a network, you say, here are the 4 or 5 prepaid carriers out there. We didn't even go and ask them for commissions. We didn't care. Like we had so much like belief in what we were doing in terms of selling those phones that we didn't really want them to to give us any money. But really, that's how I kind of got into the space selling unlocked phones. We scaled the company to almost $100 million in global sales in under 5 years. It turned out to be more of a B2B company than B2C. I don't think we were.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have necessarily expected that.
Yeah, it was just like this is when like the whole revolution around phones was happening. A lot of companies wanted it and vice versa. Like really, that was what we focused a lot more in. Like we had a B2C, we had customers in 90 countries, and we did a couple of $1 million, a year in retail sales, but it was like never as big as a B2B business. And really. So one of the things that we did at GSM Nation was we realized how hard it was for MVNOs to like carry phones. They either didn't have the liquidity to do it, they didn't have the expertise to do it. So we came up with this idea of like a walled garden, which is like, hey, we'll make the web shop for you, we'll collect the credit card payment, we'll do the fulfillment, and we'll give you X% back. So our first partner was an MVNO back in the day called Soloway, which basically is like really an interesting story. They went from like 0 to like 80,000 subscribers in 4 months, and then like, it was.
Is that fast? Like, I feel like we don't really have an understanding of user bases sometimes, and where MVNOs start and how they scale. So is that considered rapid growth or slow growth?
So think about it, right? Like, look at the quarterly results of some of these major wireless carriers out there, right? Like Verizon added like 260,000 like postpaid like ads, I think, for the last quarter, right? And if you have an MVNO that's adding 1/4 of that without even owning like the infrastructure, and this is and you're talking like 2013, like like best cell phone plans didn't exist, Stetson didn't exist, like a gazillion of these places didn't exist, so like people didn't even know what these things were. So going from 0 to 80,000 was it would be fast today, but it was like
that was like a rocket back then. That was huge.
And then they like had a slow death from like month 4 to month 36 when they went bankrupt and like burnt like $40-50 million. But we were like one of their first partners to like sell phones for them, and then we started doing it for other wireless carriers out there. And the more we did it, the more I realized that I was in the wrong space, because basically no matter so we created tech that gave you this timer that Amazon or eBay had. If you ordered before 6 p.m., we would get the phone delivered the very next day. We were so great at procuring phones that when a new phone would be coming, we'd put it on pre-order, and like 500 of them would sell before we even this. So because like we really were the trailblazers and like the phone. The problem was we would get the phone to you in a super fast way, with like the best customer experience, and then the moment that they had the phone in their hands, they would be in the hands of one of the MVNOs and
gone.
They were just
service in the tubes, nothing you could do. Yeah.
So you're missing out on the reoccurring revenue. Essentially, was like the motivation to go into the MVNO space yourself. Is that the main thing?
I was just frustrated with like so many of these people missing out on just the gargantuan like opportunity in front of them, and they were not recurring revenue. Yes, I mean, sure, like I mean, we love it, right? But it was more than that. It was, when I compared, we were going through this time when like people were stopping to use Bank of America and they were using Venmo to make money transfers to friends, where like people were like not hailing cabs anymore and they were using Airbnb, or like Instacart at that time was a very big inspiration for me, in where like we were a lot more efficient ordering from Instacart, even though they were more expensive. We were just not wasting so much money, like ordering, like getting like stuff that we didn't really want to. And so we were looking at all of these companies that had created this technology and the user experience layer on an existing infrastructure. And they were worth billions and billions of dollars, whereas wireless was just riddled with people who had backgrounds in like distribution and and all they were doing was just like reselling like cheaper service and like knowingly selling service that they were like, yeah, we know we are shitty, but like we're cheaper as well. And there was I think that like the inflection point for me was my last company started getting a lot of press, and I was like on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine. So like I was talking, so my PR agent was going everywhere, like pitching me everywhere, right? So I moved her to and they lost her phone number that she had for 18 years.
No.
And then she was on hold for an hour and a half, and then she came to me, and then obviously I emailed someone over there, and I'm like, okay, like this like really has to stop. Like there's this huge opportunity in this space out there, and that we had to take. So really, I think it was a couple of these reasons, and then by 2015, I was like moving on from my last business, and I was ready to do something else, and I had enough insight working with these MVNOs to know what the space wanted, and so that's really how we got into it.
That's amazing.
So Ahmed, when you were like, okay, I'm gonna solve this problem, right? I'm gonna create US Mobile. Like, what did you do? Did you just call up Verizon and be like, hey, I want to like buy Spectrum for like I want to buy?
Wait. Also, quickly, so I think because of weird agreements that are in place, we have to clarify that US Mobile, I can say I've tested the service. I know for a fact it uses T-Mobile and Verizon for coverage, but US Mobile has to market them as GSM LTE, which translates to T-Mobile, and Super LTE for Verizon. So GSM LTE, Super LTE is kind of what we have to use going forward. But yes, please continue.
So yeah, when you were trying to when you were trying to make this MVNO, right? Like, did you just like have to call up one of the carriers and be like, hey, I want to make a network? Like, how did that whole process even get started, right? Like, who'd you have to go to? Like,
that's actually a really great question. When I decided to do it, obviously reached out to all network operators at that time. And the challenge that we ran into was that we really couldn't commit to like real revenue. And a lot of these carriers like ask for like millions of dollars in like recurring revenue, like minimum contracts, and we just couldn't do it. But I did call every carrier, like on the GSM LT side of it. There's someone over there in wholesale where one day I called. I had decided that I was going to launch my own carrier. Like, that's it, right? Like, I mean, and once that decision was made, we had to try to get a deal. And for one of the carriers, I filled up their like wholesale form, and they never like responded to me. And so I called like one person like 17 times one day, because he like emailed me. He's like, Ahmed, is everything all right? You called me 17 times. And I said, dude, I need that. And then I went to and then they wouldn't respond to me. And then I found the guy who is like one of the senior most people over there. And I basically sent him a LinkedIn message saying that, listen, I came into this country with like $200 in my pocket, and my current company is an $80 million in revenue. I want to start a new company, and the least I deserve is a
chance, probably.
Yeah, meeting with you guys. Like, that's what like America is, right? And that guy was great. He's like, hey, we're at the MVNO conference in Dallas. Why don't you come and meet us over there? So really, like, that's how it all started. And I remember, we had this idea around like what customizable service would look like. So like I drew the matrix in a presentation and said, this is what we want to do. And they were like, they put literally one of the guys put a cross on it and said, but this is too disruptive. And I said, wait, how is it too disruptive? I'm selling like, 100 talk, text, and data for like $10. Like, you guys sell like unlimited for 25. Like, I mean, how am I like disrupting the space? And like, like everyone kind of let out a chuckle saying, oh, but that's what they use. But
right. Because I think the whole idea, I remember when you guys launched, I was in high school and I was like, I'm not really calling people. I'm a student. I'm texting a lot. So if I get a plan with like 100 minutes, maybe 1,000 texts, iMessage was there to save the day. So I didn't need that many either. A little bit of data and I was good to go. And I feel like that's what people were using at the time. So it was almost like a brilliant, transparent breakthrough where, hey, you can actually pay for what you need as a customer, and you can get a more affordable rate for it, which was really, really awesome. So
it was, right. And that was incredibly important for us. Like, if you ask us like why we've been like the biggest reason, like what I remember, like one of the early investors, like, they were like, so are you going to take on like AT&T and T-Mobile. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking on them. Like, I think there's a space outside, that is like unaddressed. But, for us, we had to be super focused on like what really our niche at that time was, right? And listen, there's been books that have been written about it. Like Peter Thiel says that great companies dominate a niche before they move towards adjacent markets. And I think for us that niche was okay. People who use less than people who want to pay less than $15, but also don't really use a lot of talk, text, and data, because like that inflection point used to come very fast, right? Like, which is like we would sell you, like back in the day, the most popular plan at US Mobile, like almost like 30% of our users back in 2015 and 2016 were on the 100 talk, text, and data plan for like $7 or $8.
Oh, wow.
And it worked, right? Because the service was very expensive, and like that's so, and that really worked for us. So like we were just super focused on what we wanted to do to hit scale, and a lot of MVNOs like went bankrupt or go bankrupt because eventually their idea is we're going to put the same product as like one of the main carriers by leasing the network right next to them and sell it like $5 cheaper, and that just never works.
Did you guys have a marketing budget? Like how are you getting the word out about US Mobile's new plans, what you were doing, kind of the niche you were operating?
A lot of people like, I mean, it's like, when you compare our marketing budget with our competitors and at scale, like, I mean, and we're at scale now, like, I mean, I think we get to 250,000 users, like add new 250,000 users at least over the next 12 months, if not more. But like our marketing budget is like 1% of our revenue. So there's like this massive amounts of like virality around US Mobile. 60% of our like users either come through word of mouth or search.
Oh, wow.
So there is like a lot of people it's it's always been the same thing. Like, we obviously did not have any money, but at the same time, what we had back in the day, we had a product that just did not exist at that time. The whole like Ting existed, but a Ting per line charge was $6. And secondly, they were they were not as customizable as we were. They were like, we are postpaid and vice versa. So what happens is like every now and then, like when you create a product that just doesn't exist and there's demand for it, you tend to get a lot of your initial traction by just people finding you and converting really fast around it. And the reason why I thought when we kind of invented this whole like being able to customize your plans with like really amazing user experience, there were so many people who came and told me, hey, the market is headed towards like unlimited and it's not going to work. And I told them, and this is a story that I tell a lot of people, which is the reason why we think US Mobile is going to work in the beginning was that Americans love to customize stuff. Like, I mean, like Americans are just obsessed with like custom touch here and there, right? So an example is like many years back when I was running my last company, I went to a meeting in Europe. I think we were either in France or like Netherlands, one of the places. But anyways, ordered a sandwich, like and the person brought in, and I told them that I'll have this, but I don't need any bacon in it. So the person brought the sandwich with bacon, and I said, listen, dude, like it's like a religious thing. I don't have bacon, so can you take it out? He's like, no, you take it out. And I'm like, oh, and the host is like, dude, like, I'll eat it. We'll pay for it. Can you just take it out? And he's like, no, you do it. He wasn't being rude at all. That's just like how Europeans are. Like, they love to work in a specific paradigm.
Like
in America,
you make the product. This is the product. You buy it. And if you have a problem with it, like that's on you.
And in America, you go to like the boonies, right? Like some like randomest like place in America, like in some corner, you go to a diner over there and you tell them, hey, take the mayonnaise out, put this in and put that in. And they'll be like, yeah, okay, honey, I'll do it. Like that's what America, dude, like there's a reason why West Coast Customs is so famous, that show, right? I mean, come on. So we were like, you know what? It's going to work because Americans love to do that. And that is exactly what it was. Like, people really responded well to it.
So I just want to take a quick step back. So we were talking about niches before, right? Who exactly is your like targeted demographic? Like when I look at US Mobile, I love you guys because you have like literally the best international plans I've ever seen in my life. But So I picture travelers as like your big demographic that you're targeting, or people that are coming internationally to spend like short periods of time here. But Ahmed, who was your targeted niche when you originally like started this whole thing? Because maybe I'm off the mark.
That's actually a really great question. Like, really, the targeted niche in America was tech savvy people, who wanted to take control of their wireless bill, and were sophisticated enough to buy a SIM card like online, and cared about really beautiful like experiences, right? So like, I mean, that like becomes a niche, right? But like America, like the beautiful thing about America is that it has like 300 million people. So like even a niche here is like mass market somewhere else out there, right? So we knew that specific niche would get us somewhere. So like that really was our target market at that time. So we were obviously over-indexed in colleges. Like international students like loved us. Like they were coming into this country, no credit check. We give you a SIM card preloaded with like talk, text, and data. We started off at Yale because like that's where I went, and like I knew the international office over there. A couple of weeks later, we get a call from someone at Princeton saying, "Hey, you guys are doing this over here. Like, can we do it as well?" And then at Harvard, and then like, so we kind of, our initial user base was all there. But then like even at like little presence, like here and there, like we were getting 10, 15 activations a day. What we saw was that a lot of people were bringing their phones over to US Mobile without us giving them any porting credits. And we're like, okay, well, there's clearly some like gas behind this. And that's and that's when within the first 7-8 months of launching the company, I went and raised $2 million from, a venture capital fund to kind of scale from there.
That's
gotcha.
Amazing. So is that why you actually offer those student discounts? Because I remember seeing that on your site. Like you have student discounts for Yale, Harvard, all those things. Is that kind of the genesis of that, how that started?
It is, right? And like, I think we lost, and like, so like every time, like the whole, like when students come in, like, we clearly see a jump. I think we lost a little bit of steam on it. It used to be on our homepage, but really that's exactly why we started it. And it's really funny. Like people even today, they like use their student IDs to buy like free SIM cards, which is awesome. I wanted to do that, right? But like, it's still funny.
I have another question, by the way. So like your prices are so like incredibly insane to me. Like I truly can't fathom almost how you're able to get the prices to be as low as they are. Is that really just coming from the fact that you don't have to deal with brick and mortar stores and your marketing budget is low? Like how are you able to basically what I'm trying to say is how are you able to charge the price you do and still maintain being profitable? Like they're just so cheap. That's
a really great question. So like US Mobile has been profitable for the last like a year and a half out there. But also it's not really your wholesale pricing that kills you. It's most of the time it's cost of user acquisition, which is
I think I've heard in the industry it's like $600 per like 2.5 users is typically the marketing spend with the major carriers, like for the football game advertising, for the not even the bring your own device, but the promos for the devices and all this stuff. It's so expensive to get new users. So yeah, what were you doing to keep that low for US Mobile?
So, and you're right, that number is correct, right? And our number is like 1/10 of that. But like, one thing that, it's like, US Mobile, it does consider itself as like a more of a premium service, even though we started off as someone who was offering plans for less than $15. Like that obviously is stuck with us, right? I'm out there. But that's what kills most of the MVNOs. Like no idea on like what their CAC to LTV ratio is. We are obviously insanely data focused in that. Like I'll give you an example. Like there's some tech that we have built at US Mobile, like in terms of like our real-time metering engine that I know doesn't exist anywhere. So I was very recently on a phone call with one of our account managers at like one of our carriers, and he was like, this is what your next month's bill is going to look like. Last month's bill is going to look like. And like, wait, don't say it. I'm going to tell you what it is. So I told him the number, and we were within $250 of that. And that's been built by obviously we have this genius data scientist Rahul who built it, and the thing with Rahul is like he keeps on saying that, Ahmed, I know we are always within like less than 1%, and I can like but when we're like, no, it's not worth your time, please do, like don't spend. But the thing is, it's real time, so like every day we know what our like exposure for a specific wireless carrier looks like, and obviously with that kind of insight out there, we are able to make decisions out there. So like Dennis, to your question, we are in the high margin range. Like we make margins that are like north of 30-35%. If we're not in the 10, we'll never be the 10-15% margin business, just because we just cannot offer the stuff that we do. Like, smart people cost money.
Right.
But it's cost of user acquisition. It's like we have a 10-year vision on like where the space is going to be. And I think we've kind of treaded very closely the fact that we have such a massive like organic and like word of mouth like population, and it's compounding, right? Like, 10,000 people refer X amount of people, and 150,000 people will do X plus N, and that number becomes bigger.
I think. So, Dennis, go ahead.
So, Ahmed, on this show, I've talked with Stetson about kind of like a dream plan. We had like an episode where we talked about dream plans. And one of my ideas that I would love to see from like a cell phone carrier in the US is basically for them to sort of emulate what my home ISP does, where basically they say this: for X amount of dollars, we'll guarantee you, say, 25 megabits per second for speed. And then I can just use that speed and data however I like. Like that includes hotspot unlimited at that speed, unlimited usage on my phone at that speed. I could just do whatever I want the same way I do with like my home internet. And I was just wondering, is that something that's sort of viable for an MVNO like yourself to do? Or have you guys ever had talks about doing something crazy unique like that? Like instead of having traditional data caps, right, with like 8 gigs or whatever the soft threshold is, just having a straight up like saying like, this is your speed, use it how you please kind of deal.
So if you go back to 2017 when we launched Super LT, that's exactly what our plans used to be back in the day. We used to have unlimited plans that like were like, and so it was standard, fast, and then ludicrous. Like that's where like ludicrous comes from, right? It comes from, other than the fact that obviously like I'm like a huge Tesla fan. It's like we wanted to compete in the market. We wanted to have that like low price point and do that. So it's something that we have tested, and you know what, it actually was successful, like to the point that like like the two biggest decision makers in the company are like me and our like chief operating officer Michael, and like Michael like still wants to do that. Like there's always this to and fro between me and Michael on like, okay, what do we want to do and how do we want to do it? I think that the challenge we face with that is that what happens 5G is here, right? So, and it's not like US Mobile is charging extra for 5G, and like most of the carriers are not, right? Secondly, like we're in an interesting situation where like the bar has been set at a certain like price point, right? So like you're on party pay, and then like the unlimited plan is $25, and vice versa. So I think the delta between what we do, which is like, okay, our $15 plan is like 5 GB, and our unlimited plans can go like with 4 lines to 30. That $15 in the middle, like we are always kind of fighting with ourselves on what adds like more value. Like what could we decrease our unlimited pricing by $10 and like give you like fast speeds, right, or like something like that. But then as soon as you decrease that, we are already selling like 18 or 20 gigs for $25, which is like what like most of the Americans in any case use, right?
Yeah, and that's like 96% of average consumers, right, easily.
So our challenge is that like, where do we go from here? Like the only way what you say works is if we started the race to the bottom of the barrel, right? It's like, okay, like what can we give you 5? The thing is, US Mobile will never be that company. There are companies out there that plug that hole, right? Like, I think Tello has done a pretty good job, like for the sub $10, space out there. Right. We'll just, it's like we really are obsessed with just the most amazing customer experience out there. But then there's other stuff that is in the works, right? Like at US Mobile, where we, so our value add comes from there, which is like, okay, can we offer Netflix to people who buy a $15 plan at US Mobile or $20 plan? And like, so our value comes from there, as opposed to like, doing something where you'll save $1 here, $1 there.
Right. So I kind of want to jump back where you were talking about, you have an amazing team of people at US Mobile doing all this incredible work, this insane behind the scenes data analytics. And it sounds like you're basically taking the average marketing budget and just pumping it back into your team, building this tech and building these systems. Can you talk about some of the cool tech that US Mobile has implemented that the team is really proud of? I know you just launched data usage analytics October 30th, 2020. That was really huge. And I feel like the mobile app and the website, they launched last year and they've gotten so good. So yeah, so what's some of the tech that US Mobile has developed and deployed recently that the team's particularly proud of?
So I think all of them combined, right? Which is, you bring up a really good point. We had a fork in the road moment sometime like end of last year, like 2019, where we had just become profitable. So we were like, cash flow positive for a couple of months out there, and we had hit, some numbers where we were signing a new deal with one of our wireless carriers out there, and that would have resulted in savings for a couple of $1 million out there. And I still remember, like, there's two directions we could have taken. We could have invested all of that money in marketing out there, or we could have invested all of that money in product. We just couldn't have, like, we couldn't have gone half here or half there. Just that wouldn't have worked. And so me and Michael, we decided that, like, we thought the US Mobile's long-term success was predicated on creating a technological layer that just did not exist, or building on that. For that, we needed 4 product managers. We needed another 10 people on the engineering team. So we were like, okay, we're not going to spend on marketing. And it was, and pardon my French, but like, it was really like a ballsy maneuver at that time. Like, it was like really me and Michael were making a decision on, and if that had gone south, we would have basically run out of money, right? So it was like, okay, how do we, because we do depend on new users coming into US Mobile for us to like expand as a company out there. So we decided that we are going to invest in technology. We took our engineering team from 3-4 people to like almost 8 or 10 people. Our product team went from like 0 to 4, and vice versa. And what have we created, right? So like, there's stuff that US Mobile is built on that, like, it's like you have the first movers advantage, and sometimes when something really matures, like that's when you have, like, when you come at that time. US Mobile, is, a lot of our platform is built on like the Google Kubernetes engine. So, we have, 35 services built on Kubernetes, and then another 50 services on top of that on Docker, and it's truly like a microservices architecture. What does that mean? What it means is that when you see our matrix on our website, or when you see the plans, that actually that's an entirely separate service that we've built, right? So whatever changes we make over there it does not impact our like system, because like not monolithic and vice versa. So decisions like using BigQuery out there, or like MongoDB for our databases and for security, we brought in some really rockstar engineers back in the day, where like for example, we were going to build like the usage analytics platform, right? Now, using the user analytics platform, you do get the CDR feeds, like the call data record feeds from a wireless carrier into an FTP server, right? So what 99% of the companies do, they just start parsing it from there. We're like, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to use data flow so that it can scale. So it's like there were technological decisions. At the end of the day, like, honestly, we're just like, all of us are just nerds who just like run a wireless carrier. Like, we have this running joke that if we became so big and we had our own building and we were like hiring a janitor, like we'd expect them to like know SQL. So our usage analytics engine is built on that, and it's like infinitely scalable out there. Our eSIM is an entirely separate service, and it's built in a way that we can actually today go and work with 4 more carriers and build their services onto that module. And it's a highly flexible and modular infrastructure that lets us do this. Like our recent plan changes, right? That happened 4 or 5 days back. We literally decided on those on like, I think January 22nd. Like I'm actually not joking. We decided on January 22nd, and like within 10 days, we had come up with the new plans. We had migrated our customers. We got the announcement, and like that kind of light speed just doesn't happen.
Wow. So I got 2 quick questions that have to do with this tech aspect of things. One question I had was, since you guys use both GSM and the
Super LTE, yeah.
super LTE networks. Has there ever been talks about combining the coverage for an even better experience, making it more unique, similar to what Google Fi did before T-Mobile and Sprint merged?
That's actually a really great question. I think the fact that T-Mobile and Sprint merged justifies the reason for never doing it, right? Because literally through one merger, like whatever their like business model was, kind of got combined, right? But more importantly, here is what we realized back in the day. There's just a few technologies that people just haven't figured out. And if they haven't figured out in 2021, they'll never figure out. One of them is ubiquitous handover between like GSM or like wireless carriers to voice over IP. No one has figured it out out there in a way that's like entirely ubiquitous out there. So our challenge was that, when we were making the decision on like, do we do what Google Fi has done? And listen, I think Google Fi did it more for vanity reasons than anything else out there, because they had to do something that was cool out there. If you look at so many Google Fi users before the merger happened, like they'd all figured out how to like log on to a specific network, right? I mean, like they were like actively circumventing like what Google Fi had built. What Google Fi had built, which was amazing, was the whole billing, the way they were billing you, right? And the international roaming part, right? Which was great out there. But for us, it was, do we do this or do we go and like get the best network in the country, like which is our super LTE network, and just build something where you don't need this, like and so our decision was, let's just invest in the network that just mostly works everywhere. Remember, at the end of the day, US Mobile, we would love it if you could build out everything for 100% of our users, but like in reality, like from a practicality perspective, we can only really build stuff for like what 90% of our users want, right? Not the 10%.
Gotcha. Now, my second question is something like Wi-Fi calling, for example, I've noticed is not implemented on both sides. And even on your Super LTE network side, I believe it's only working on Android phones. I was just curious, what is like the limitation of getting Wi-Fi calling to be available for both styles of plan and on all types of devices? Is there some type of like approval process that's slowing it down? Is it a limitation on the infrastructure you have to build out something as an MVNO? Like, what's preventing Wi-Fi calling from becoming accessible across all the plans?
That's actually such a great question. So on Apple, straight up, we need to get a profile up and running with Apple specifically to enable Wi-Fi calling. So, and since we're on two networks, we'd actually need two profiles on it, right? And this is one of those decisions that I think over the years has made us very successful, which is like, we're generally very good at like figuring out, okay, what is useful and what increases like, and what is like really a vanity feature, right? So on our Super LTE network, the Super LTE network was forever known for great in-building coverage and just good coverage all around, right? Out there. On the GSM LTE side of it, like it's a network that's great, like they're doing very well on 5G, but like they've had to do so much refarming all the places that's where like really we needed Wi-Fi calling out there. On the Super LTE side of it, if you were to do Wi-Fi calling, we'll have to get that profile up and running with Apple out there. Where we are in discussions to do it, we could do it. It's a 2-3 month sprint. Here is the challenge that like I'm like grappling with, like when we build it out. When I see companies that have actually built out profiles with Apple for their iOS devices, it for the most part has been actually a negative experience out there. I see, like recently, like TrackPhone had some challenges, right? And like and that's because hey, we have, there's an update that hasn't been pushed by Apple and vice versa. We have been so successful using the generic profile that we're like, why mess with something? And when you have a generic profile, you're one of the first ones to get the updates because like that's who and vice versa. So our challenge is we create extra work for us. It's like 3-4 months of building that profile. Then we have to manage it out there. And then the second part on the Super LTE side is we actually have to work with the third-party company to do address validation. What does that mean? Like as soon as you remember, at the end of the day, if you're on Wi-Fi calling, how do you call 911? How do they even know where you are? So there's a mechanism where like you have this generic address that you validate on it. So like if 911 cannot triangulate you, like there's the first responders cannot triangulate your location through like cell phone towers, they'd be able to see what your address is, and like, they try to get there and vice versa. So there's massive amounts of heavy lift needed on that end, and there just isn't enough demand for it. Like, I understand why you guys are asking, because like obviously, like Reddit is full of it, and like, but just to quantify, like, how our users look like, right? Over the last 6-7 days, as we've kind of grown massively, and we continue to grow, like less than like 0.5% of our user base, even less than that, comes from Reddit, right? I'm out there. So I think, and we are very communicative with our users. Every email we ever send, you'll always see like, hey, share your thoughts on it. And US mobile customers absolutely love us. So like, they actually do share their comments. Wi-Fi calling isn't really that high on the list on the super LTE side of it. It was pretty high on the list on the GSM LTE side of it. And that's why we did spend the resources to build it out on the Android side of it. But on the iOS side of it as well, like we have the same issue of that we'd have to do all of these things. And I just think there's so many other things that are in the pipeline. I mean, remember, the wireless carriers are spending hundreds of billions of dollars building their networks out so that you do not have to use Wi-Fi calling.
I totally understand. I actually didn't even know about the Reddit piece. I was just genuinely curious because, when me and Stetson talk about plans on the show, one of the key things that we see as differentiators among MVNOs is that they'll have certain features that at least I personally take for granted. Like it might be visual voicemail, right? It might be like being able to do the voicemail to text on transcription because of visual voicemail functionality, or it might be something like Wi-Fi calling, which for my market personally, I live in this like apartment complex. It's rather old. It was built in the 70s. So it doesn't matter who you have. You're going to have pretty bad cell phone reception in my apartment. So I was just curious about that, but no, I totally understand. I didn't know, or now that I know how difficult it is, I totally understand.
And we build it, right? There just has to be a time for it. Like, there's stuff that we want to build out before that I think is going to be very useful for our user base.
Yeah, it sounds like just the priority of what's going to add more value to your users in the shortest time frame. And it sounds like you guys have some other things up your sleeve, hopefully coming out this year, that will be super exciting. I kind of want to jump back to the tech aspect, because I know in one of your more recent updates, you guys completely overhauled your chat and your customer service portal. So my questions are, what challenges was the US Mobile team experiencing with the old system that you were using? What motivated you to build the new system? And what kind of problems have you guys solved with your new custom-built implementation?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's, since we were obsessed with user experience out there, we used all kinds of tools. Like, we used intercom that's like spent like hundreds of billions, like raised hundreds of billions of dollars, and vice versa. All of these companies were built for giving the intercom actually did really well in terms of live chat. Like, most of the companies use it because it is a really good experience out there. But it was a very good experience under a certain paradigm. We were obsessed with our, with like an experience that would sing to you, right? So what we realized was that no matter how well we did on the user experience side of it, and like, we have, like, for example, US Mobile's front end is all progressive web app, which means that we basically have the same code base that we use, and then we PWS can be published on Android like store natively, and then on the iOS store we actually just wrap it in Cordova and push it. But like, it's the same code base out there, right? Which like obviously makes us a lot more efficient. But thing is, no chat was behaving very well with our PWA, and the in-app experience was just like shit. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, so we started talking to different companies on like using them. It was like a 1.5 year search, and finally I was like, just F it, like, we're going to build our own solution. And listen, we're very cognizant of it. I do not want to reinvent the wheel outside the telecom space, because like, I mean, there's a lot of resources, but it wasn't working. So we went and we found this company called Flow.ai, which is like an AI engine that actually has its APIs that you can build your own solution on top of. And if you go to Flow.ai, you'll see like how unlimitedly scalable that platform is. You can basically connect voice to it. You can connect anything that you want to it. And we're like, okay, this is what we are going to build US Mobile's chat solution on top of. Because basically, if you're successful in building it out, you could literally just take your phone we today have modular capabilities on the back end where like you could take your phone, and if I enable the voice feature, you could ask questions like, how much do you think I'm going to use over the next 3 weeks? And we have our metering engine can parse that data and tell you based on what your usage looks like. And that's where I see where US Mobile's future is. So we're like, the only way this is possible is if we take total control over that. And that's why we built it. And you can see that, right? I mean, I don't know if you have seen a latest update, but like our chat really is just one of the most beautiful experiences that you can see, like in app. And the only way to do this was, and we're obsessed with it, right? And it's like, and I'm not sure how healthy this obsession is, because like maybe I could have spent those 3 months worth of dev on something else out there, but no, like it has to be, for us, the obsession around user experience is such that like I something gets released, I'll click on that button 10 times. Like, how does it open? How fast does it open? And listen, we're not perfect. I think there's a lot of stuff that you can figure out in our website that we need to fix. But we do have that obsession around user experience, and we're going to create it ourselves. Like, that was the only way we could put autopilot AI behind the chat solution as well, if we had our own chat solution. So,
and I'll just say, by the way, it totally shows. I took some UI courses back in my bachelor's when I was doing my bachelor's, and your website is very clean. Everything about your app is very clean, so it definitely shows.
I think #1 website out there. I go to all these websites, absolute garbage, complete trash. The plan, like you can't even tell the information. You go to US Mobile's website, it's just like this beautiful. Everything is.
We're 2 months. We're 2 months away from an entirely brand new, totally different website that we've been working for like 4 or 5 months on, and it's. So super excited about. That's one of the biggest projects we're working on, and the website will look just totally different in a much better way. Like this technology. So I mean, I'm super excited about that, and we're working 24/7 on it.
So I kind of want to talk about a little bit about the future for US Mobile. And one of the things I kind of wanted to ask was this. So I'm sure you noticed there's been a common trend with people actually adding more devices that are outside of your typical smartphone, i.e., Apple smartwatches, tablets, Internet of Things. I know you have a whole thing dedicated to some Internet of Things devices. I was just wondering if you had any future plans for maybe adding like a dedicated hotspot and gearing some plans towards that space, since it's definitely got a niche that could definitely be fulfilled by you guys. But has there been any talks about that in the future?
Absolutely. It's actually a very big project. And I don't want to, like, I wish I didn't have to let this information out, but we are launching data only plans that are going to like almost mimic what our retail plans look like.
Sweet.
So we're not going to upcharge you for any of that stuff. So like that is a very, very big, like that's a very kind of, it is something that, we feel very strongly about, and we're not very far away from it. Like, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, but that's exactly what it is. Our challenge always is like, how do we articulate it better, right? Like, it's like, okay, you can buy any of these plans and it works for your router or your hotspot and vice versa. But at the same time, like, like my biggest concern always is like, I don't like want to like have someone to click on a hotspot. Like I want to be able to say, hey, here are all the plans and you can use any device on it and vice versa. But they've been in the works, and we should be coming out with them pretty soon.
Well, that is super exciting.
Amazing.
I know a lot of people that I grew up in my hometown will be more than happy, because I grew up in a very rural place, and believe it or not, I actually used to rely on cell phone data because it used to be better than anything you could kind of get as far as like a home internet was concerned. So that would be super exciting. One other quick question I had for you as far as the future of US Mobile is it has to deal with 5G. So on your website, you talked about adding support for your plans for 5G, and specifically you have like the 2 gigabit like little speedometer thing going on. But as far as I'm aware, and Stetson, correct me if I'm wrong because I might be off the mark, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think millimeter wave support has happened yet, has it? I just wanted to ask what's kind of going on with that for your
Yeah, if you're able to talk about it. I'm super excited about it. I was, I know US Mobile kind of teased this in July, I think last year, like, hey, these plans are coming. And I believe, there was a shift and refocus on actually the more budget plans we saw, the $15 2.5 gig plan that is actually now doubled to 5 gigs, which is incredible. But I think millimeter wave, we never really got the follow up there. So I'm curious if you can share what's going on.
It wasn't even like a shift and like refocusing on something. It was more of a technological limitation. like 5G works in just totally different ways, even from a billing and provisioning perspective out there. And we really had to shore up our capabilities. Like, I mean, think about it, right? It's like till a couple of months back, like our 2.5 GB plan was like $15, right? In ultra wideband, like that's like 2 speed tests,
Yeah,
and then
if
you're done,
that.
right? So we were like, okay, how do we create a platform that's like super fast like that? So it's taken us more time building that technology out, and I would say that maybe we're 6 to 8 weeks away from actually launching ultra wideband as well. So like it's coming.
Okay.
Awesome.
We're excited.
It's coming, and we're not going to charge more for it. So
Sweet. So I want to actually kind of touch on a Patreon question here, which is, what is US Mobile's proudest achievement in 2020? And this one comes from Mark. And you guys did a lot in 2020. I was actually just looking back. You launched your apps officially in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store in April. You had your new $15 and $30 plans that were 2.5 gigs and 10 gigs. You then increased those plans to 5 gigs and 30 gigs. You launched data usage analytics. You launched international eSIM plans, Wi-Fi calling on GSM LTE. Like, you guys had a strong 2020. So I'm curious if you can kind of pinpoint one of US Mobile's proudest achievements. Maybe it's related to customer service or something, the team was working really hard on there. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you think.
So we just coincidentally had our town hall meeting at US Mobile like at 11 today. And it was basically, we have one every month where like the product team talks about it, and like a different facets of the company. But this one was specifically me and Michael going over. And by the way, at some point you guys should have Michael on the show, because like he's like the much smarter version of me in like every way possible. But and we're kind of reminiscing, right? I think our proudest achievement has been the fact that we grew 100% in 2020, stayed profitable, but we went from 30 people to 110 people.
Wow.
Like, and I think logistically, making something like that possible is insanely hard. We could have only done it because of just the massive amounts of intellectual horsepower we have. Like, it's really funny. The other day I was reading a comment on Reddit on like some guy was like giving shit to Motion. Is like he was saying stuff like, yeah, you're trying to protect your job and vice versa. Dude, that guy like went to like Cornell and then was like in the natural language processing department at Apple. Before he came to US Mobile, he absolutely does not have to protect his job at all. It's more it's because of his like intellectual horsepower and vice versa. And same goes for everyone, right? I mean, the kind of people that work at US. So the fact that we've been able to recruit such incredibly talented people who honestly have the pick, like they can go anywhere they want to. And they decide to stay at US Mobile. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy about all of these things that we did, and we have more users, and our users are happier. But like really, like success at US Mobile is just 100% predicated on 2 things. Like, I mean, the main overarching philosophy is like empathy, right? Like, I cannot tell you how much we focus on customer experience, how like I respond to customers here and there. So like, this is like a message for anyone over here who's like, listening in, that if you ever talk to some guy like Ahmed, Khattak on chat, that's actually me, because like I do that, like But also, it's the whole company's like philosophy is predicated on you have to treat customers really well, and you have to treat people within US Mobile really well out there. And so the fact that we've been able to create that culture and go from 30 to 110 people is, I think, something that is amazing. And in terms of like what's to come, if we doubled our revenue and did all of these things while we were scaling the company about 30 to 110 people, think about what we'll do in 2021 when that's like the baseline that we're starting off with.
Sweet.
That is incredible.
We have another question from Patreon supporter Max, and I think it's a fair question. I think it's worth talking about. And Max is wondering, how do customers react to the added taxes and fees on your plans, and how can you be more transparent about them?
That's actually a really great question. The fact that we are growing 100% year on year means that obviously it's not a problem. Um, uh,
Have,
I
have
think I
you
would
guys have you guys
so,
thought about like including the taxes and fees? So my thing is I would almost have liked to see the 2.5 gig plan stay at $15, but just like taxes and fees included. Like that's it. Because
so
I think
if
yeah.
we did that, if we did that, it would have a material impact on, just because of the massive user base we have on, US Mobile's financials.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, listen, will there be a day when all the taxes and fees will be included? I think yes. Is that going to be in the next 1 quarter or 2 quarters? I don't think so. I'm out there. Can we be more transparent about it? I actually disagree with some people that we're not transparent about it. Like, we brought it in below the fold. Then we actually made like literally like 2-3 days back, Michael was like, guys, make that darker. Like, and it's actually darker. Like, if you look at it, it's like it, and it's not because we didn't put a light font in because like we want to hide something. It's because at that time, designers have this thing around, there needs to be contrast and like vice versa, and that's what it was. But it's the fact that we don't eat any of those fees is what really makes US Mobile what it is today. I'm out there. I think, and it's the thing is, like, we suffer through this because over the years, a lot of these customers have been screwed by other companies out there, right? I mean, think about it. We went from 2.5 gigs to 5 gigs for the same amount of price. That's a lot more than that $2-3 that we charge anyone out there, right? So do we keep the plans the same and take it to $17? Honestly, I'm not sure whether I have an answer for that, but we are incessantly working on it. We're working on how do we make this so that like when you ask, like, do customers have a problem? No, by and large, 95% of the customers do not have a problem with that. A lot of people will come to defend us as well on it, which like other carriers charge as well. Yeah, we might be a little more here and there out there, but that is what makes US Mobile what it is out there. Will there ever be a day where it's included? I think the answer to that is yes, but I'm not sure whether it's this year.
Sure. I appreciate that. No, I think, I mean, from my perspective, I think you guys are offering just the most premium experience for the app, the account dashboard, the usage analytics, the custom built support tools. And for me, I would even like after they take the current plans, add in the taxes and fees, maybe the prices go up. Maybe it's like $20 for 5 gigs or whatever. But from my user perspective, I feel that that can sometimes provide just a nicer overall customer experience.
I absolutely agree. Like, I mean, listen, it hurts me. It bothers me too. It does. I promise you, as a US Mobile CEO and founder, it bothers me as well. I wish we didn't have to charge you these fees, but we have to because otherwise we don't get paid. But it is something that we are proactively working on. And there is a day when, when hopefully they're either away or we give you so much for that $2 fee. Like maybe we'll pay for your Spotify account, whatever it is that lessens the pain.
Sweet.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I just wanted to add my 2 cents on. I mean, personally, I don't think anybody has at least me, I don't have a problem with the fees. Like I don't mind them at all. Similar to like Stetson's point, I really like it when it's just like $20. Like if I know it's $20 and it's $20, even if the fees are already baked into that cost, like I just would love it. I know there's obviously hurdles because like my state only charges like $1.65 for 911 covered, whereas Stetson's might not. And I know it probably gets hairy with the billing, but if you ever do come up with a way to like do that approach, I think it's just very clean. It doesn't have to do transparency. It's just very clean, and there's something reassuring knowing that like $20 is $20 or $25 is $25. You get what I'm saying? But overall, won't beat that like a dead horse because honestly, you guys are doing everything incredibly well. Your customer support is incredibly refreshing, and like Stetson said, you have hands down one of the cleanest websites I've ever seen. So seriously, nothing but props. Seriously.
Yeah, and one thing I actually did in the recent video where I was announcing US Mobile's new plans is I was like, well, how does US Mobile actually compare to Mint? And I don't want to dive into a huge comparison here, but I broke it down on a cost per gig basis, which is what I feel is a reasonable metric to measure the plans. And even after all the taxes and fees I was seeing in Colorado, you guys were ahead. You guys were providing the lower cost per gig on a month-to-month basis with for some people, the better network coverage on your super LTE network. So I thought that was really cool.
And I think I want to clarify that, because we've been getting a lot of questions around that. Like, honestly, US Mobile's decisions are just not predicated on what our competitor is doing. We do not think about, and I don't want to sound arrogant and say it in that way, but it's like, it's only natural for us to be compared to Mint and some other, and it's an honor to be compared to them, because like obviously they've done a good job and they've grown. Obviously we think we are better, but but really, like, US Mobile's plans are built around what our unit economics looks like from our carriers, and like how we can give that most of that back, as opposed to like what our competitors are doing. There'll be times when our competitors are going to be cheaper than us. Like, I mean, listen, Mint and all of these companies were like, their plans per gig were way better than us at some point, right? And maybe they'll be better again out there. But for us, like, user experience is something that really matters.
Sweet. I really appreciate it. Well, one more question for you, and then you're welcome to take off, because we really appreciate your time. But I feel like I have to ask, what phone are you using and what plan are you currently on?
That's really funny. I'm using iPhone 12 Pro.
Okay.
And we have.
Oh my God! You've got something in beta. You're testing something that's not even released.
So yes, I mean, we have some internal plans that we like, with the company uses. Like, our biggest, most exciting release is our pool plans. So we're about to launch plans that you can share across, but not in the flavor that you've ever seen in America. Like, I mean,
my gosh,
the stuff that we are launching, like literally our product manager, who's like product managing it, like went to MIT, like he's like building it, right? Like, I mean, Dan, and he's like just effing amazing. But what we have created on the pool plan side of it is, like, think about being able to create multiple pools for the same family. I mean, there's an image, there's like a little bit of there's an image that Mosh has kind of thrown in our Reddit like post, like, it's taken us, that's been by far the biggest engineering project at US Mobile over the last 7-8 months, and we're just about to come up with it. And hopefully after that, we can start thinking about postpaid as well. Like, we've been a prepaid carrier, but I think sometime in 2021 we'll go postpaid as well. So there's just way too much happening. But yeah, I'm using something in beta internally.
I love it. I love it. Ahmed, thank you so much for your time. Dennis, I really appreciate having the opportunity to chat with you. Is there anything else you want to let the audience know about before if you have to go?
Listen, thank you so much for everyone joining. And, we truly appreciate, everyone who's a US Mobile customer and anyone who's not a US Mobile customer. But and I think I want to tell everyone that we hear you. We hear everything that you folks say, and it's like the obsession around customer experience is just like, something goes wrong and some 5 people get on it, and and we're not perfect, right? I mean, we'll make mistakes. We do make, we every now and then we'll see someone on the weekend, their port hasn't completed for 48 hours, and it hurts everyone in the company. Like, that's how truly we care about these things. Like, I mean, thank you for that. I will answer one question. I think, like Manoj just said, any plans to bring truly unlimited plans on US Mobile? The answer is hell yeah, very soon.
If you listen, if you do that, I swear to God, I'll be one of the first people to sign up. If you bring out a true unlimited plan, no stopgap,
I'll hold you to that.
And I think now's a great time to plug some recent promo codes. If you sign up using code YOLO and or Tendies at checkout, you guys can get, I forget what it is actually. It's like 60 days free of whatever plan you want. So consider signing up US Mobile. Use those codes. Link in the live stream description. Ahmed, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Absolutely fantastic discussion. Again, links down below to check him out. And yeah, take care.
Thank you again, Ahmed.
Bye.
All right, Stetson, why don't we go ahead and kick it off with some news talk then now?
Yeah, wow. I mean, that was incredible. So I think before we super dive into news, I just want to say probably add 50% to the timeline of everything that we're hyped about right now, because I know when you're a developer, you're so excited about getting your products out, and sometimes development just takes longer. But I think from what we heard today, 2021 is going to be a super strong year for US Mobile. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Dennis, some news.
Yeah, real quick, hold up. I gotta run off of that real fast. US Mobile honestly is like the dark horse in this race. They're always doing things that get me excited. So that's like, we talked about last week about like the carriers and stuff. Don't get it twisted. MVNOs like US Mobile always get my heart a pounding. Like the concept of a true unlimited plan for me, Stetson. Oh my God. I don't necessarily need it because my data usage is low, but like my God, if the price point's right, man, I'm doing it.
We only see true unlimited data plans right now from the flanker carriers, right? So we only have true unlimited data from Visible, from Metro by T-Mobile, from Cricket Wireless. Only those carriers are able to offer true unlimited data. The highest tiers I've seen officially on MVNOs is around 50 gigs from Ultra Mobile, and I think Teltic's new plan is 50 gigs, and in fact, US Mobile themselves is 50 gigs. And if you go with business line, like we've seen Wing do 100 gigs recently, but yeah, those all have limits. So if we see a true unlimited data plan from an MVNO, I think that's something to get excited about.
And if he throws in ludicrous speeds, unlimited hotspot.
I would call it plaid speed because I think millimeter wave 5G was faster than ludicrous plaid.
How about we call it Chad speeds? All right, I'm sorry. I'll get serious now. Sorry, folks. So Stetson, we prepared some news. Why don't you go ahead and kick it off? I'll let you choose the news topic.
So we have T-Mobile's quarterly earnings. Those were announced pretty recently, I think. So they had 1.6 million postpaid net adds. My question, how many of those were the free line ads, right? We're not
And
sure.
how many were from the merger?
Right? How many were from the merger? How is that all being counted right now? They did reveal that, they did reveal that 824,000 of the net adds were postpaid phones. So to me, that indicates those are actual customers. So at least 1/3 of the postpaid net adds were customers as opposed to the free line. Equipment revenue was up 21%. Postpaid churn was 1.03%, which
that's up
is,
from last year, right?
Yeah, so I think that's actually Sprint. And my understanding is that Sprint, I could be mistaken here, but whenever I've called Sprint customer support, to me, it sounds like it's being offshored. Like I'm getting someone who may not be a native English
Hear the rooster
speaker.
in the background.
Yeah. I'm getting some weird sounds in the headset as I'm on the phone, making me scratch my head. Whereas with T-Mobile, I did my review of them, and I said they had some of the leading customer service and support in the industry because of what they call them team of experts. We've seen them called T-Force more publicly and kind of on Twitter and stuff. So I think once T-Mobile is able to roll out the T-Force experience to Sprint customers, I think that could help reduce churn. But yeah, that was a little bit higher. Profit went down by $1 million. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think T-Mobile had a strong quarter. And I was listening to a podcast the week with Roger, and they kind of brought up like the real story behind T-Mobile's quarter is that it makes you question what went wrong with Verizon, because Verizon actually had a pretty weak quarter in terms of their quarterly results. So
real quick, I just want to back up real fast on that comment about the support. It's a really interesting paradigm, actually. Now that like you type in Sprint, right? You see, no, it's T-Mobile right now, and you get directed to the T-Mobile site. Yet they still have the support being like these two totally separate experiences. It's pretty weird. And on the comment about the ads, I'm wondering where they all came from, because I know that AT&T basically kind of steadfast saw because of that awesome iPhone promo, and the only person that really lost subscribers was Verizon this year, which I think it was only 265,000. So where did T-Mobile get all the customers from, right? Like that's the interesting part to me.
Yeah, I think it probably was actually just the free lines. Like, do those count as customers? I don't know. And I think that's actually why we saw the ARPU. So the ARPU went down $48.55 to $47.86. My guess is this is because of the free lines. Like if you add a free line, it's free. It may count as a customer. And so therefore, if you add a bunch of non-paying customers, your ARPU is going to go down. So
So here's the thing that I don't get. Like, I mean, it's great for consumers that T-Mobile is doing free lines and all that, but I don't get it from a business point. Like, I mean, I do and I don't. Like, okay, so like if you have free lines, I get you're going to be less likely to switch because you're going to be infinitely cheaper than everybody else. But I don't get it from a business point because you're literally taking money out of your pocket. You're now adding another device to the network that you need to invest in the infrastructure support to prevent congestion. There's just a whole bunch of reasons why I don't get it from a business point. And Stetson, do you kind of feel the same way? Like, would you rather see T-Mobile maybe save that extra 50 cents and put it towards something more useful? Or like, are you just like, nah, man, let them do the free line thing?
I actually take the nah, man, let them do the free line thing. I think T-Mobile started out as the underdog, right, where they weren't really known for their coverage for their network. And so I think coming in strong and getting more of a reputation for value and then showing those new customers that their network is actually decent and it is getting better, I think that will kind of help them going forward, where they can kind of build up a little bit more of the reputation. You know, maybe it causes friends to recommend it to families or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm actually okay with the approach. Although, as we've talked about in other podcast episodes, we would love to see T-Mobile improve their network infrastructure and their towers and cell sites and things like that.
And the only reason I bring it up too is because we've seen T-Mobile also do the opposite thing. So I'm not sure how much you've been paying attention, but for Sprint customers that have been, being converted over to T-Mobile's trying to do everything in their power to get people off these old Sprint plans because they were super like cheap and like not like that profitable for a postpaid plan. So it's like this weird paradigm to me, right? Like they're focusing on trying to generate money because they need more cash flow to do the types of investments and make the large purchases on spectrum and all the other things that they want to do. All the while they're running these like free line promos, which are arguably even worse than having a Sprint customer that was paying like $10 for a Kickstarter plan. So it's just like this weird paradigm that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it is weird. I think you bring up a good point. I don't know how many of those free lines are actual lines. I mean, our friend Austin, who's on the show just last week, he's gotten like 3 of those, and he's run out of devices to actually put them in. So he's not actually utilizing the free lines or really adding to network congestion or network use. So that's kind of where I feel it's kind of a balance. I bet T-Mobile's able to offer that because not too many people are taking advantage of it besides the enthusiasts, our fan base. Maybe some of you people watching or listening are taking advantage of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think T-Mobile does have some interesting pathways to grow though, right? So they just deployed 5G on their 600 megahertz spectrum, and they kind of talked about in the quarterly earnings report, their next focus is really going to be the rural markets where, they can offer their service to people in more rural areas, because T-Mobile already has about 50% market share or more in some of the top 20 markets in the United States. So by focusing on the rural parts, they can potentially grow out their network, and they should be able to provide decent coverage with their low band spectrum and offerings.
Okay. Well, moving off of this, do you want to talk about our more exciting topic, the rumor roundup?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go through it.
All right. So what we're going to talk about now, guys, is we're calling this rumor roundup. Basically, we're going to be talking about leaks for new devices that are coming out, our predictions, and some exciting things that we're hoping for. Stetson, do you want to kick it off maybe with the OnePlus 9 leak since it's just around the corner?
Sure, absolutely. I know basically not a whole lot about it, though, so can I pivot it on to you? Dennis, what is OnePlus rumored to be doing here?
Well,
Should we pivot into iPhone leaks?
Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to get the article back up that I had. Oh, my God, with the ad blocker. Yeah,
it is exciting, though. I think I can spitball here because OnePlus, great company, great phones. They have been doing amazing things with warp charging. That's fast charging. They've been doing amazing things with the display and color accuracy, and they had a pop-up camera underneath the display, fingerprint readers, things like that. I'm hypothesizing we're going to see camera improvements in this model. We may see a 1440p display at 120 hertz. They may offer a more budget option at 90 hertz. And maybe we get some wireless charging in there. I don't know. I think the big thing for OnePlus should be the phone, or the camera.
I got the article up here.
All right, Dennis, how close was I?
So as far as the 120 hertz thing, that was actually already a thing, I believe, on the OnePlus 8 Pro. You could do 1440p with.
Yeah, I have the regular 8 here, so I wasn't sure.
But so one of the big notable things is there's going to be a huge improvement on battery life. OnePlus is managing to squeeze in a 4,500 milliamp hour battery while keeping the phone relatively thin, which is exciting. So I'm always a proponent for better battery life since, to me, a dead phone's a paperweight. Their fast charging is somehow magically getting improved yet again. They're basically taking a lot of tech from one of their flanker brands. I'm trying to think. I think it was like Xiaomi
Oppo or
Oppo.
Xiaomi or
Yeah. So basically, they're going to be incorporating an even more improved fast charger, which of course in OnePlus fashion will be proprietary. But basically, you can expect to charge your phone up in basically like from like 0 to like 50% in like 15 minutes. Yeah,
that's
insane. Which
that
is
actually.
nuts.
I have questions. Actually, I'm gonna pitch this to you, Dennis. What is your take on sort of slow charging via wireless charging, which typically gives your phone better battery longevity? So
You said wireless charging. Wireless charging generates a lot of heat.
What doesn't it still, because it's charging slower? Isn't it better for the phone, or is it the heat?
Heat is the enemy of batteries and lithium ion.
Okay.
So what's more important is not generating heat. So hardwired and then charging slowly, that would help. But if you're doing any type of wireless charging, you're going to degrade your battery a lot quicker because wireless charging is inherently inefficient. I don't know if you've ever seen like the coil that they put on the back of a battery, but basically you're just pumping a ton of wattage, and that coil, it's charging the phone and generating electricity with obvious measures in place, but the coil itself gets hot.
Yeah, it's cooking my eggs for breakfast. It's actually a double feature. All right, well, my actual question then would be, would you prefer, I guess I was going with like wireless charging versus the fast charging, thinking with my previous knowledge that the wireless charging would be better for battery life, or would you prefer wired charging at the slow speed versus wired charging at the fast speed? Basically, I'm trying to ask, would you prefer slower charging that provides better longevity to the battery, or would you prefer the fast charging?
So
for those of you listening, Dennis, what are you holding up right now?
I'm holding up my phone, which is plugged in with a physical charger. I am a proponent of physical charging. I have MagSafe. I use MagSafe on my iPhone 12 Pro. But honestly, cord, give me said cord. I will always take the corded charger over wireless 99.999% of the time. And then as far as slow charging is concerned, nah. I want fast charging. I want that. Don't give me no slow charging anymore. I don't feel like waiting 6 hours for my 5,000 milliamp hour battery to charge, because that's how long it would take with like one of Apple's 5-watt bricks.
Oh, yeah, you're totally right.
So, yeah, no, I want fast charging. I want it hardwired. I'll use wireless in a pinch. Wireless is good because the only reason why wireless is good to me is because I have 2 different phones, and Apple does Lightning, and then Android uses USB Type-C. So wireless is great for universal support, but I will 100% take wired cord because it doesn't bother me. I want that.
Sweet.
But
so is that anything else with new with OnePlus 9?
Yeah. Well, it's going to have the new Snapdragon 865 in it, right?
That's the new 65. It should be the 60.
Excuse me, 888, Snapdragon 888.
Yeah, okay. No,
sorry.
So I think Qualcomm kind of got everyone confused because they just released the Snapdragon 888 with the X60 modem, and then they went ahead and they announced but did not release the X65 modem. So they got new tech that's not quite ready yet. But OnePlus 9 coming with the new 888, that's great to see. That's going to give you millimeter wave 5G, hopefully better band support and compatibility, and should be what I imagine available on Verizon. And T-Mobile, I feel like, is actually the carrier that's doing the best.
T-Mobile sells OnePlus and is the only carrier in the U.S. that actually sells them. I don't know about Verizon support, but what I do know is this. I'm looking forward to seeing what the OnePlus 9 does, because to me, the Galaxy S21 was underwhelming this year. And
it's already on sale. Did you see that? B&H offered like $200 off. It's going on SwapUp for like $200 off. I think we talked about it last time. I'm just butthurt about that.
Basically, OnePlus always tempts me every single year, but they've continued to make like their flagship product, and then they have like the Nord, which I think is already slated to be pre-ordered. But I'm excited to see what the OnePlus 9 does. I think this might be the year where OnePlus makes the perfect smartphone, because their weakest point has always been camera, and I know that's supposed to be improved. Battery life's about to be on point. They got the 1440p display with 120 hertz, so that's great. They already had some of the really fast storage inside. They got the best fastest charging both in the wired form and wireless, because they have that proprietary like ultra fast wireless charger that doesn't use Qi charging. Have you seen their wireless charger? It literally has a fan on the back.
Yeah, it's yeah, it has a fan to cool itself. I mean, that's the one that would be the most concerning to me with the amount of heat that's generating.
And on the topic of battery, by the way, one of the tricks that they did to get their charging that so much faster is the phone actually has 2 separate batteries inside. So the way
it's charging both of them
at
to
the same
50,
time.
yeah, to 50%, and it's faster.
Yeah, so they're charging 2 simultaneous like 2,250 milliamp hour cells at the same time to get the charging that much quicker. But yeah, no, it's just a really exciting Android phone, and as you know, OnePlus typically has a very close experience to stock Android, which is also beautiful.
Oh, I love their software. That it's probably my second favorite. If sometimes favorite, it kind of floats. I float between them.
But
it's awesome.
I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. I have a feeling it'll probably come in I'm assuming it's probably going to come in at like the $1,000 mark, but that's still undercutting what Samsung has been charging for something like the 21 Ultra, which
not
is
if you buy it on Swappa or you get it $200 off B&H. Yeah, all right. I think that's great. What would sort of motivate you to get the OnePlus 9? Would you even consider it? I mean, this is kind of just a personal question. Like,
no, I mean, I am considering it. I mean, what would
you upgrade your S20, or like how would this fit into your phone landscape?
Yeah, the S20 Plus would be the one I would replace, and the reason I'm considering getting it is because of the better modem that's inside. I mean, Stetson, you were telling me you're getting like 30% better performance from this modem, so
yeah, I'm a big fan.
And also, OnePlus typically does a better job at rolling out updates for the newer versions of Android than Samsung does.
Yep, you're 1,000% correct there.
And also, as far as my Samsung phone is concerned, Samsung has lost some of my loyalty. I want to get away. Like for example, something like Samsung Pay, right? That used to be like one of my big things that kept me with them. Well, they removed the little like magnetic strip reader in the new S21s. So since that's a dead feature, I have nothing tying it to it anymore, right? I could just use Google Pay.
Can go. I mean, everyone's offering NFC payments, so it doesn't even matter what carrier phone you go with.
And then expandable storage isn't going to matter because OnePlus sells, I think their base model is like 128 gigs, and they got like crazy size stuff. So like, I don't know, like basically all the things that kept me locked to Samsung, they took out of their phones. So it leaves me open to buy other things, and OnePlus has always caught my eye, and it's going to have the things that I care about as far as the bells and whistles, and it's going to perform arguably better because OnePlus tends to not have as much bloat. So I'm actually
100%.
eyeing it
I'm
up.
with you. I'll probably pick one up to do an unboxing, but I think I need to set a limit so I sell one of my old phones first. I'm getting like a herd here, Dennis. It's not good. It's growing.
I mean, I think it would be fun before you actually sell it to do a speed test comparison between the Samsung phone, then the OnePlus phone, and then maybe like an iPhone, and see which one gets better 5G and LTE speeds.
I love that idea, Dennis. Let's actually move on, speaking of iPhone, to iPhone 13 leaks.
Okay.
And do you have an article pulled up on what we're seeing here?
I do. I have one up from BGR.
Okay, let me guess. So my guess for iPhone 13, oh, thank you, Dennis. I'm guessing 120 hertz display. I'm guessing, if we're lucky, Apple will put in the newer X65 modem. I'm guessing probably the same design. And what else will be exciting? MagSafe is still here. Oh, maybe underneath the screen, fingerprint reader. That's going to be the big thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
How did I do?
Well, you basically banged out all of them. I was going to say the under the screen fingerprint reader is not something that's like been rumored or leaked, but like that's something I'm hoping for.
Do you think they'll do underneath the screen, or do you think they'll do in the power button like they did with their iPad Air?
I really hope they don't do in the power button, because the power button is so small, and Sony has done that before on their Xperia phones, and I just remember that being a very poor experience. So my hope is for an under the screen fingerprint reader, similar to like a Samsung done as everybody else. And I'm hoping they still keep Face ID as well. I want both to be there. Hopefully COVID taught them like it's good to have multiple means of authentication.
I think Apple engineers are actually getting frustrated right now because in iOS 14.5, you can now unlock your iPhone using your Apple Watch, which is like their temporary fix until they get the fingerprint reader in there.
Yeah, great for people to have Apple Watches. Too bad Apple will never get me to buy one, because Apple Watch only works with Apple phones.
Yeah, well, you have an iPhone, Dennis. Pick one up used on whatever, but you use your Android device mainly, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, the only reason I got this Gear Active was for the heart rate monitor. For reasons my doctor wanted me to track some certain things. That's basically the reason why I got it. And honestly, at least this can work with an iPhone. Same thing with like Pebble and other third-party things. But
oh yeah, no, I mean it's true, but it makes sense. Apple's whole walled garden thing. What else is exciting for?
How about the budget-oriented side of things? There's rumored to be an SE 2021 edition.
Do you think that will just be an iPhone 12 mini rebranded?
I don't know what
it will. What are they going to do with their design? Because their design is like 6 years old right now for the SE.
I mean, I'm not sure what they would do, honestly. I mean, I'm assuming that the new so the SE was kind of rounded. I'm assuming the SE 2021 edition would probably be like more squared off, since that's like the new design that they're going for. Yeah. I would imagine that Apple would probably keep the home button still in it, probably.
Dude, I feel like we're entering just like uncharted territory where the same design would feel so stale. I want them to spice it up. It's also the cheapest phone, and I don't think it makes sense for them to invest in research and development for this product. Like they just want to make it fast, good cameras, super affordable. That's what SE is known for.
But I think there's a reason for the old design, right? Like the people that kept on to their old successes did so because they didn't like the new designs. Like the same reason why I kept on to my 8 Plus for a long time there and only replaced it with the 11 because I got it for free. Like literally got the phone for free. That's what it took for me to replace my 8 Plus, right? And the only reason why I went from the regular 11 to the 12 Pro Max is just because I found the 11 to be too small.
That's interesting. I thought the 11 was actually quite big. I did not enjoy it, especially with the slippery round sides. We have a listener joining us live for the YouTube version of this podcast, Eduardo Malv, saying the new SE 2021 is probably a rebranded iPhone XR. I actually really like that idea where you're taking kind of a newer design that's also in a phone body that Apple has experienced manufacturing. So I think,
but they would put the new processor inside. I would
assume, right? They throw the new processor in. I would love for iPhone SE users to get the ultra wide angle camera as well. Apple may keep that as one of the limited features for the more premium flagship devices.
But why would they use the XR design when they could just use the 11 design, which is the same design essentially, in a nutshell? I don't know.
Oh yeah, well I think maybe maybe the camera.
I mean,
it depends what they want to do with that. Because you're right, both are the same design. The iPhone XR and the iPhone 11, same design. The only difference is the ultra wide camera on the 11. Maybe it will be. I'm leaning
more towards them doing something with a home button incorporated, like an actual like physical home button. Because if you think about the demographic for the SE, right, it's not for the person that wants the latest and greatest. If they want Face ID, they can get an 11 and score it for cheap. It's roughly the same price as an SE at this point.
Yeah,
right?
You know what's weird? I don't know if people know that. Like, because people, I feel like, go to carrier stores to make their purchase, and they only see what's available from Apple, from Samsung, and Apple just doesn't basically resell the old devices. Like, they have stock. When they go out of stock, they focus on what's new. And so the newest, cheapest iPhone is the SE, and it happens to be the home button one. So I don't know if people are really buying it for that, or if it's just the price.
Yeah, I really don't know. I do know that I'm definitely hyped about the 120 hertz display. It's long overdue.
I'm so ready, Dennis. Like, I was so excited for 5G in iPhone 12, but if it didn't have 5G, I probably would have skipped it because next year's model is just going to be so much better on so many different levels. And I'm probably going to sell mine. I want to say maybe in August of this year, just in prep for that. And get ready for the new ones. Do you think that we'll see new iPads this year and or Macs with LTE/5G support?
I would love to see a Mac with wireless support. That would be the perfect combination with their M1 or whatever they want to call it chipset. and it would truly make the MacBook a revolutionary laptop that's like truly legit. Like I know Microsoft has attempted this with their Surface line, and I know other Windows manufacturers have done it, but no one's actually nailed it to like the degree of performance that MacBook has been doing. And Stetson, we've talked on the side. I was a skeptic, right? Especially when they had those cheesy graphs, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But the reviews and the performance that we're seeing and all the apps that have now been optimized, I'm a believer. I'm believer.
I'm with you.
And I won't buy one yet because I just don't have the need for the portability. And I find it still to be an overpriced piece of equipment, no offense. But if they came out with one that actually had LTE incorporated and I could slap that on like my T-Mobile plan or something, I think I would do it.
That'd be so tasty. That would take like mobile work or work on the go to a whole new level. I mean, it would just be, I would love that.
But my caveat is that it can't be like one of the hotspot plans. It needs to be like unlimited everything. Maybe it's deprioritized, but I want it to be treated like how T-Mobile does their home internet. Give me bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. It needs to just be, even if it's QCI 9, bottom of the barrel, it just needs to be unlimited. And typically T-Mobile speeds are pretty good, so you should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, because if it's not unlimited, then it defeats the point because you're going to use a lot more data with like a desktop application versus a mobile application. I mean, look, we'll use like Adobe Photoshop, for example, right? You know, you can download it on a phone or you can download it on, you know, a desktop client. The desktop client is multiple gigabytes in size, whereas the mobile variant might be like 1.4 gigabytes. So it has to be unlimited. You wanted to talk about foldable phones, though.
Yeah, we just saw Microsoft's Surface Duo drop in price. It went from, I think it started at, I want to say $1,400. Is that right? Or maybe it was $1,200, and now it's down to $1,000. So it's they dropped in price. Clearly a sign, not doing so well. So that's the folding news update. But really, you know, I want to talk to you, Dennis, about the future of foldables. And my question is, where do you see foldables going? Do you think the book fold design that Samsung is implementing with their Z Fold is the better approach? Do you think the vertical flip design we're seeing with the Z Flip is the better approach? Or do you think the exterior sort of book sleeve design where the screen wraps around the outside of the device is the better approach? What do you think is the correct approach to foldables at this moment?
Well, I definitely don't see the book sleeve approach working because the foldable screens are basically made of like a fancy plastic. And so they're very like easy to scratch. So having the screen on the outside is terrible, and the technology is just not there to support it. Nor do I see the need for the justification of it.
Completely agree.
As far as Samsung's foldable phone, I lean more towards that being where it goes, just because we've seen from consumers that generally speaking, most of the market prefers larger phones and larger screens. Stetson, you're sort of the minority. You like the smaller stuff, but
yeah, I do kind of prefer something that's more pocketable and more, just easier to use. The truth is, for me, I would rather have a cheap phone and a super nice laptop. Like, I'm a computer workhorse. I feel like I get so much more done. It's so much faster. 2 windows side by side. I know on your Android phone, Dennis, the S21 Plus, great screen real estate. It is much better for multitasking. For my purposes, I much prefer a laptop, and I like having something small and portable on the go.
But I see the like foldable like a book becoming the bigger approach, and the reason being for that is because it gives you all the benefits of a phone, right? Because it's still small enough to fit in your pocket. But like when you're traveling, let's say you're on a plane or something, it becomes a beautiful piece of art for consuming content, which, you know, a lot of people consume like a lot of YouTube, like they're probably listening to the podcast right now on their devices. So that's a noticeable gain. And then as far as the clamshell approach goes, I do think that there's a specific niche for that market. You know, there is something to be said about like, you know, having that really pocketable device, especially for like women's pants and stuff like that. Like I'm sure you've noticed, but like with girls' clothes, right? Like their pockets are usually not as deep as us.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on if women clothing designers like don't need pockets. They don't want pockets. Like what the issue is with pockets. I've heard numerous complaints about that. So it's a real thing. Yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to be sexist, but it's just like a thing I've seen in design languages. But I think that there will be a niche for that for for that demographic of people or people with like smaller hands that want something that's like super easy to pocket, but similar in the way that like iPhone mini and like isn't like the Cadillac product. I think that clamshell approach will not be like the Cadillac product. And what will end up happening because it's not the Cadillac product is it won't get all the flagship specs. So you'll find people like myself who care about those flagship specs overlooking it, even if we like the design.
Yeah.
And it will either fizzle out or it'll just be very niche.
I completely agree with you 100%. My issue with the Z Flip, the small footprint phone that is actually reminiscent of an old flip phone that kind of flips out, is that Samsung isn't able to pack the flagship camera features and specs and performance into that kind of design, just because it is smaller and a little bit more compact. My favorite take right now is I'm actually between. So I think the book approach is the best, where you have that folding, the screen's on the inside. You need to protect that plastic folding screen. I am personally torn, however, between Samsung's take with the Galaxy Z Fold and what Microsoft is doing with the Surface Duo. So Dennis, what are your thoughts on, a phone like the Z Fold that folds out, has a big canvas display in the middle, versus what Microsoft is doing, which is one device that folds out and it legitimately looks like a book where you actually have two screens side by side? Would you rather have like one big canvas or go with a dual screen mobile device?
So Microsoft's approach kind of reminds me of a Nintendo DS. And although I think it has applications where it makes sense, like the content creation piece, or maybe I'm doing a Word document on one side and have my email up on the other or something. I don't know. Like there's approaches for that where I think it works. I also think it's not going to be the most user friendly. Like I'm just picturing myself trying to text someone and trying to we type with our thumbs, generally speaking. So like if I have a thing that's like this and I'm trying to reach into the keyboard.
Well, get this, Dennis. You can take, let's say, so you have a left screen and a right screen. You can take your left screen, fold it completely around so it's flush with the back of the device, and all of a sudden you've got a more typable size that's just a little bit wider than a normal smartphone. Maybe it's a little bit closer in size to an iPad mini kind of device.
I mean, honestly, I think foldable phones that we're seeing right now, I feel like are just a stepping stone to an end game design goal. And I don't think any of these are actually going to be the things that end up sticking or making their way to the mainstream. I think what would be more likely to happen is we get to the point where we get like the slidey phone, like that was demonstrated at CES by like LG. And basically I have like a phone like this size, right? And I literally just peel out my screen and then that's how I consume my content. And then when I'm done, it just goes back in. Because this form factor to me is the better form factor. It just makes sense to me. I was gonna say, I guess you could argue the clamshell approach would make sense because I'm getting that like thinner screen and I can still make it horizontal. But there's just certain designed problems with the foldable and that foldable design.
Yeah, it gets really thick.
It's thick and you can't fit the type of specs all the time in there, like we talked about, and it's gonna make it weird for like the front firing cameras and just different stuff. I don't know. Foldables are exciting. I just don't think any of these designs are quite to the iteration yet where they're refined enough where I can make like I'm gonna go out and actually spend the money on one of them. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. No, they're expensive. The Z Fold, $2,000, Surface Duo. We just mentioned it started at like $1,200 or $1,400, and now it's finally dropped down to $1,000. But
apps aren't really supporting. Like Linus has done reviews.
Oh
where, like,
yeah, that's the big thing. App support, garbage on these devices.
I mean, if anybody's doing it best, I would say Samsung's doing it best. Like that's the approach that I lean towards. Microsoft has a cool thing, but like I said, I don't mind using both my hands, but even for two-handed use, I would find that design to be incredibly like not ergonomic. It just doesn't lend itself to being used in any other way aside from like just media content. Even when you fold it around, like you said, it's basically almost like holding an iPad mini in my hands. Yeah. And that's not indicative of like a good like on the go experience. Like if I'm using an iPad mini, I'm probably gonna want it on my lap and I'm gonna have like one hand like this and I'm gonna be like chicken poking, which is not a fast way to type anything, right? So I don't know.
You're completely correct. For me, yeah, I think foldables are a novelty item. I think we're trying to figure out the better design for them, and more importantly, how we can use them and if they're better. I personally take your similar stance, Dennis, where I feel a dedicated smartphone. For some people, maybe it's a bigger S21 Plus or S20 Plus, or maybe a OnePlus 9. Or for me, maybe it's a smaller device like I have the iPhone 12, maybe it's iPhone 11 Pro, something like that. So pairing a smartphone that is a proper smartphone, your brick design with a laptop. I think laptops are incredible. And I'm especially a huge fan of what Apple did with the M1 chip and the battery life they're able to get out of that. And I'm really hoping we continue to see improved battery life for other tablets as well. I just think keyboard and trackpad infinitely faster than anything you can do that's touch related and on a foldable or otherwise.
Gotcha. So Stetson, you had some fun questions prepared that I didn't even think of. Do you want to hit me with any of your fun boy questions?
Yeah, these were actually mostly geared towards Ahmed, so I'm not sure they're applicable to us, but we can go. Fun question. What keeps you up at night? This is kind of like you're a concerned CEO. Like, what are you thinking about as a company? Ahmed has since left, so now Dennis, what keeps you up at night? What is CEO Dennis worried about?
What keeps me up at night, man? What keeps me up at night? Probably work, honestly. My job is very stressful.
Oh, no.
And honestly, there are nights where I'm generally like having a difficult time falling asleep just thinking about things related to my day job. So
Sorry to hear that, Dennis.
Pretty boring, but there you go. What about you, Stetson? What keeps you up at night? Because you actually are a CEO.
It's actually the same thing. It's work. I will stay up. I'll get this. Oh my God. Like visible new plans. I need to get the video out today. And so I will literally stay up editing the video, export, thumbnail, and hit publish. So it's most recently been staying up late and working on video content. Yeah, maybe we can actually go and move into the chat and see if there's any questions we can interact with here on the live stream for YouTube.
Yeah, let me just take a moment to also just thank Mark Hoyle. He did a super chat of $3. Didn't say anything, but I just wanted to thank him for the super chat and supporting the show. And I don't see any other super chats. I just wanted to make sure we called him.
Yeah, that
out.
was a one super chat. So thank you so much, Mark, for your continued support of the show and actually for asking a great question of Ahmed. There's one question here, Dennis, from one of our favorite live viewers. Dennis, what do you think about Visible's service? The $40 is muddied by the cloud servers and the nodes not being optimized.
What do I think about Visible service?
You haven't tried it yet, have you?
I've not used it. I told you about my experience trying to get it from my friend who just threw the SIM card away. But what do I think about the service? I think Visible service on paper looks very attractive. You know, I love that they're doing the unlimited hotspot, even if they say it's capped at 5 meg or whatever. I actually really like that. And I love that it's unlimited data. I love the price point. The price point's the cheapest unlimited plan essentially that I know of at $25 if you get the
party pay discount. If you join my party, Best Phone Plans, we have actually almost 200 members now. How insane is that?
I guess my problem with Visible service is that Verizon's coverage isn't very strong in my market. Let me rephrase that. Verizon's coverage is fine in my market, but the actual overall performance on a deprioritized plan like what Visible would offer would not do well. You kind of have to have priority data if you're going to use Verizon in my market. And that would be the one thing that kind of keeps me away, as well as the fact that Visible's a little weird with their coverage. Like it's only LTE and then 5G that you can take advantage of. So anywhere that has, I know 3G is being shut down, but anywhere that has any of those legacy forms of coverage aren't available. And I don't believe they have access to any roaming agreements, domestic roaming agreements that Verizon has, which in Pennsylvania, Verizon does roam a decent amount in like central Pennsylvania where I have family out that way. So it's a good product. It doesn't convince me to switch. If I was to get on Verizon's network and pick an MVNO, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I would probably pick US Mobile because I would want to buy the ludicrous speed and go that route. But
yeah,
Stetson, your thoughts?
So I think my take on Visible is it's a tremendous value. It's not for everyone, but it's not also the most premium experience. I think Visible they could improve in areas like their support, their activation flow, and a few other things. But yeah, it's an incredible value. It's just not the most premium experience, and it's not going to be for everyone. So just,
and that ping time. And on the topic of the nodes, because of the lack of nodes, that ping time, man.
We have the Jammin JJ57 asking, speaking of Visible, any word when they will support the unlocked S21 Ultra? The Jammin, I guess mixed news. I popped a Visible SIM card in my S21 that is unlocked straight from Samsung, and it worked totally fine. So even if Visible themselves are not saying the S21 is officially supported, I can confirm from my unit that it will work on their service. And I think that is Apple Watts was the 50th member in Visible Party. Apple Watts, thank you so much for joining the party. It was just like a cool idea I had and super fun to have you on. And Visible did have some new features recently added, international calling, but as Eduardo points out, there's no roaming in Puerto Rico, and you can make international calls to 787 and 939. So
Stetson, while we give time for the audience to add some more comments, I got a question for you. So you've been sitting on your S21 now for a little bit of time, and I know that I've been like the one that's been downplaying it, but how's your overall experience been with the phone?
I was more excited about it initially, and I still stand by that it's a good value phone for most average consumers. The software is just so off-putting for me. I want to get rid of it ASAP, is the truth. The OnePlus software experience is so much better. I've gone back to using my Pixel 5 more. The software experience is so much better. And yeah, everything just feels faster and more fluid on those devices to me. So that's it's like a good phone for average people, but for Samsung enthusiasts, they're missing out on the expandable storage options now. I think it's a great design, but yeah, the software kills it for me. The modem's fantastic though. Performance and speeds are great.
So I'm assuming you've done more extensive speed tests at this point?
I have not yet. I have to go into, or I would like to go into Denver to get the millimeter wave to really put that to the test. Yeah, that's my consensus. Apple Watts, I agree. Stetson, OnePlus and Google all the way. Thank you for the comment.
Okay. When do the promo codes YOLO or attendees expire? Stetson, do you know?
James, we have absolutely no idea, so use them while you can. That's the honest truth. I have absolutely no idea. I think Ahmed and the team at US Mobile were super excited about it, and they launched it. And I think they had to add in in limited quantities or whatever, so they can basically just shut it off whenever they're like, all right, we have to stop losing money on this now, kind of deal.
Stetson, I just thought of a really good discussion real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super Bowl commercials, man. Did you pay attention to any of them?
I did not. I saw the halftime show and I called it a day.
Dude, you literally told me you literally told me, Dennis, you need to ask me on the show about favorite commercials.
I know.
And you told me you were gonna watch them. Well, okay. Well, I'm just gonna step up and just tell you real quick. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I actually missed it because I was busy with schoolwork. But I did go back and watch some of the commercials on YouTube. Hands down, my favorite one was only 5 seconds long. Can you guess what my commercial was?
Yes. It was Reddit's 5-second $1 million commercial.
Yes. Dude, that was God tier. That was absolute God tier. I don't know if you watched it, Stetson, but literally it just starts off with I think a horse riding, and then there's it just transitions to a post on Reddit, and then ends with cars riding. Guarantee no one knew what was going on. But dude, that was so great. Whoever took the time to spend that money well spent.
Well spent. That was their entire marketing budget for, I guess, 2021. So we won't see any other Reddit ads. That was it. That was the big move.
But that was huge. And then T-Mobile, man, dude, they freaking dominated the advertising spots this year. I didn't see any ads basically for AT&T and Verizon. I mean, they had a couple, but Jesus.
Wasn't
T-Mobile.
Verizon sponsoring the game though, because they had their 5G network in the game, so you could switch between 7 different camera angles, or is that?
I guess. I mean.
Yeah,
but
we're not sure.
But I went back
T-Mobile
and
had the commercial.
Yeah, I went back and looked for commercials, so that's what I was looking for. And I know T-Mobile was the one that had one at every quarter, so you definitely knew what was going on there.
Debop, I'm gonna keep the S20. He's saying I should keep the S21 because I'm a speed tester, and I need the X60 5G carrier aggregation. What I might do is I might sell it now and then buy it back later once it devalues even more.
You're going to short sell the Galaxy S21?
Dude, we know it's going down. Those phones devalue so fast. It's already $200 off. I'm very upset about that. Next time I'm for a Galaxy release, I'm waiting and I'm getting it used on Swappa, and it's going to be amazing.
But
Apple Watts is saying Verizon had a lot of advertisements and T-Mobile had a lot of lies. I will say maybe misinformation is a better word, or maybe over-exaggerated and or overhyped information. How about that?
But what carrier doesn't overhype their stuff? I mean, does anybody actually trust what the carrier says themselves?
Yeah, guys, we have some bad news. Coverage, it's not good. We're sorry. It's just not good.
Yeah, like have you ever seen like AT&T's coverage map? Because they're definitely the worst offender. It's all just different shades. Or back in the day, it used to all be different shades of yellow, and now it's like all different shades of blue. And there's no indicator. Like they'll say like, yeah, it's, there's fair signal here, but meanwhile, you might as well just say everything that says fair is just zero coverage because it's not gonna connect or be usable in any sense of the word. Edgardo Malove I totally killed your name, I'm sorry. Just said, just wait until the potential S21 fan edition. And do you think that's a possibility? Stetson, do you think that's a possibility?
I'm going to go with no. And the reason I'm saying no is because the S20 fan edition was released because it was cheaper and because there was a sickness going around that made people want or appreciate more affordable devices at the time. The S21 actually launched $200 cheaper across the board, so I don't think it makes sense for an S21 fan edition to come out. Like the S21 is already, in a sense, the fan edition.
And I just want to reply to Apple Watts' most recent comment. I just want to go on record saying that in my market, AT&T has been dominant, and I think I've been pretty transparent about that.
Yeah, I think you've actually bragged a little bit about your speeds. I'm not jealous at all. So, yeah.
Yeah. If you need as good as coverage as possible when you try out best to have phones on multiple. I agree with what Jeb just said. Yeah, if you need to have the best coverage, you're better off getting multiple different networks because no one network is always going to be 100% of the time supreme. So
I think my combo right now is because Visible and Mint both support eSIM. I actually just activated Visible on eSIM, and I might do a Mint Visible combo just to get Verizon and T-Mobile. They're both deprioritized, but I mean, like for my needs, why not?
But Stetson, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. Do you want to maybe do a quick little ad read of our own and then maybe wrap up the show?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So thank you, first of all, everyone who came out to join the live stream. Super fun having you here. Amazing having Ahmed on as well. I want to take a moment to shout out some of the new videos I created. So we have new plans on US Mobile. I did a video explaining the differences. I compare them to Mint Mobile and Visible. I have Visible just did a huge new plan update. I have a video out on that. And, of course, we got to plug the Patreon. Huge shout out and thank you to our current Patreon supporters. I really appreciate you all, and I hope you're enjoying the special perks, the bloopers, the behind the scenes, the inside scoop on the upcoming guests for the podcast shows. And anyone who isn't a member, please consider joining at the link in the description. It's patreon.com/StetsonDoggett. We have really cool perks, and we'd love to have you as part of the community. We even have a Discord server where we chat about what's going on in the world of wireless. So I think that's going to be it for this live stream. So again, thank you everyone else for joining, and that's going to be it. I'm Stetson.
And I'm Dennis.
And we look forward to talking to you in the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Peace.